Cool. All right, we got Harry in the house, CEO
Yo,
of
what's up?
Acuired. How you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. You?
Awesome, doing great, doing great. So for the people who don't know who you are, if you could kind of introduce yourself, like who you are, how old are you, what's your business, and just go right into it.
Yeah, quick little intro. I'm Harry, CEO of Acuired, which is a B2B lead gen company, mainly focusing on the staffing and recruiting industry. 24, been doing this about a year and a half now. And in that time, we've managed to bring on some great people that helped with thanks to Satyam and scale pretty quickly. So that's been good. But yeah, mainly B2B lead gen, staffing and recruiting, and been doing it just over a year and a half. So.
Awesome, awesome. So like who, like what when it comes to your service, so do you help recruiting companies, or like do you help like you do a lot of recruiting for them, or do you help them with that lead generation? Like if you could tell us a little more about your service, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. So it's all focused around lead generation, right? For most markets, most B2B markets, especially staffing and recruiting, their biggest bottleneck is acquiring clients, right? It's what they all struggle with. They all want more leads. They all want to sign more deals, sign more contracts. There's clearly, a need for that in the market. So that's what we built our solution, our system around. So with the staffing and recruiting clients, it's not necessarily their candidate sourcing process we do too much work with because they're recruiters. A lot of them have been doing this for 10, 20, even 30 years. They know the candidate sourcing process like the back of their hand. But they do struggle with the BD side, right? Business development or client acquisition. So that's really where we focus, generating leads through the likes of LinkedIn, using automations, as well as some different types of stuff with emails, cold DMs, as well as cold emails, right? So it's all pretty much cold outbound, building an infrastructure for that will be able to do high volume, but targeted outreach to help them basically get on more sales calls, close them, win into contracts, boom, just like that.
That's sick. That's awesome. And so what made you realize, okay, I'm pretty good at this stuff. Like let me just double down on this, because a lot of people, like, they have issues getting clients, and you just were able to figure that out pretty early on, and help a lot of
Mhm.
people.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing that made me realize, okay, I have a system here that works. Client acquisition for me never been an issue. Like as soon as I figured out how to run these systems properly, and that did take a lot of research and locking myself in my room to study this stuff. But as soon as I figured it out, right, how to actually book sales calls onto my calendar, I pretty much you can map out like a standard funnel, right? You can look at
Yep.
metrics, you can look at numbers. I've always been super into maths. I actually was at uni and studied uni and graduated as an engineer. So I'm super number orientated. So I put everything in a sales cycle in the sales system into numbers. So if I reach out to 100 people that are all the right fit with this particular message, I get a 5% reply rate, 1% of them book on a call, and then 20% of them close. I've mapped out the whole sales process and I know what the numbers are. I just need to optimize my inputs and I'll get the outputs, right? So, long story short, started running my LinkedIn campaigns like at this point, maybe probably about 2 years ago exactly now, very first LinkedIn campaign, and started booking like two, three calls a day, right? Just from one account, doing maybe an hour of outreach a day. So we had a good script. And I said, okay, it's clearly booking calls for me, getting on the client, and then selling that as the service as well, the appointment setting service. And I started using it for them. Similar sorts of results. Obviously, depending on the industry, depending on the script, you need to get to know their market,
Right.
etc. But it was really from as soon as I realized, okay, I can book a ton of sales calls for myself, understand how it works, I can just apply this to other businesses. And it
Yep.
sort of just snowballed from there. And it all come down to that, like understanding the metrics of the funnel. If you know them and they're tight and they can be scaled, the more you pour into it, the more you get out. And that's really what it came down to at the end of the day. So yeah.
100%. 100%. No, 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 that makes a lot of sense. And so how do we end up working with each other? Like what happened? So I think we got in touch, right? But like I'm kind of, if you could
Yeah.
to talk about the story
Yeah,
about,
we
you know.
yeah, we got in touch. So someone actually referred me to you. So they mentioned basically my issue, as I just mentioned, not it wasn't ever client acquisition. As soon as I started hiring closers, it became client acquisition, unfortunately, right? Because of my limited experience in hiring closers and not knowing what to look for and making the wrong mistakes. Basically, it's having tons of sales calls in the calendar and seeing no revenue generated from it and seeing no cash in the bank. I'm like, damn, what is going on? Like, I've used to be able to close these. I thought just giving them the script and giving them the training, they would be able to close it as well. Then you forget the way you do things, the way you know the market and stuff like this. Basically, I just noticed there was a huge gap in the business. We weren't making as much money as we projected, as I was predicting. All of this, I didn't know what was going wrong. I was looking at my calendar; it was flooded every day.
I remember you
Turns
showed
out,
shared my
it,
screen. You shared
yeah,
screen. I was
bro.
like, bro, how are you guys not making like substantially more? This is crazy.
I know. I think when I shown you, we literally had like probably 8 or 9 calls a day on the calendar, and I was like, we're closing maybe 2 a week. The close rate was at one point actually my very first closer. My close rate was 5%.
Oh my
Yeah,
days.
so that's when I knew I had a problem. But I cycled through maybe 3 or 4 closers that I thought were genuinely good, like genuinely better at sales from a like a holistic point of view than myself.
Yep.
But none of them could really crack it. None of them could really crack it. So it was very evident I needed help, and
Yep.
obviously that's where I got referred to you to come in and play some sales reps with me.
For sure. And so what was your experience like initially working with me, like even at the first month, right? Like when we just looked, I think the biggest thing is that I started looking at like what was going on and actually seeing if it even made sense in the first place. And then quickly it made a lot of sense because I was like, dude,
Yeah,
you need someone that could just really like who's a shark who can just close deals right off the rip. Like, but what was that experience for you that first month or so? You know,
there were two things that really stood out to me. Overall, the experience was amazing, really, really good. But the two things that stood out was firstly speed. I hadn't worked with anyone. I probably still haven't worked with anyone as quick who works as quick as yourself. Any question or anything required is done instantly. I remember there was a time as well when we were getting to starting the applicants coming in. I'm skipping ahead a little bit here, but we were starting to get the applicants coming in, and we are like, okay, we need a type form for this specific type of filter. And I was like, okay, I was expecting, okay, maybe this is going to take like a couple of days because we need logins, we need to set up this, we need to set up that, boom, boom, boom. I think it was probably within like 45 minutes, boom, the whole thing's done and we're getting applicants coming in. And
yep.
I was like, oh shit, this guy's serious. So speed was one thing that stood out, which was awesome. And then the other thing was like the detail we went into. Like you said at the start, it wasn't like you wanted to sell your service. It was more like, okay, we need to figure out the problem here, and the solution is the service, you know? So it was very much like looking into, okay, what's the actual problem here? Why is it a problem? How can we solve it together? You know, and then having that quick implementation with the speed. So both of those things made it really, really good. And obviously you're like super, super available as well, easy to
Yep.
communicate with, always online. So the whole thing was just awesome. Yeah, really, really good.
Awesome. How did you feel when you paid, right? Because some people they feel like some weird way about like would they feel pretty smooth, right? And then we just got
Yeah,
started. Like to be honest, too, it's like you already had found the person as well by then, right?
yeah, I already found exactly. So it's like I I had no issue with it whatsoever. I don't think anyone should, because worst case as well. I know we've had some people where setters aren't quite the right fits, or
Yep.
not necessarily even key hires, but people aren't quite the right fits. They get replaced straight away, and there's 10 times better applicants to get sent away pretty much immediately. So there's pretty much, in my way I was looking at it, yeah, I paid whatever it is, but it's like zero risk. I'm gonna get what I want at the end of
Yep.
the day
Plus,
from the
yeah,
solution.
I've
So
got a pretty
yeah,
crazy guarantee as well. But anyway,
yeah,
so like
exactly. That's
how
why I felt comfortable.
yeah, how was the process of even like find the right candidate? Let's say Jeffrey, even let's say um
Mhm.
who's like your closer now, who's closing deals. Like, how was the process of you just find the right person? Did it take a long time? Were you able to find some people that were like you knew were a good fit beforehand? Because I usually pre-filter candidates beforehand, but I'm just a little bit curious on like what was your experience on that end?
Yeah, once again, it was super, super quick. So already within the first, like, honestly, day, we probably had 5 or 6 applicants and over people. All of these people were the right fit, right? What I was looking for was the right fit of the right, like, specific industry type expertise, right? Because it's a
Mhm.
little bit more niche in the staffing recruiting space. So I wanted to look for that. And it was basically, the process was Satyam would send me over Loom videos of these candidates that are recording about themselves, their experience, why they think they're a good fit. So basically personalized Loom videos to me, which when I've made other hires like CSMs, etc., that's always something I'd ask for. Sometimes that can be hard pulling that out of people, but it was basically getting a list of those, which was awesome. Having a look through and then scheduling time with the candidates that I like the look of. And once again, with this, it's not like a corporate thing where if you want to interview someone, you have to schedule in advance. It was literally we were booking them either same day or day after
Yep.
these calls, right? So jumping on, speaking with the closer, speaking with the setter, and then from there, it was once again a very smooth process. We typically made a decision pretty quickly. I just wanted to know a little bit more about them on the call, their
Mhm.
experience, their background. I wanted to ask them some specific questions. And if it all checked out, I usually give it a day or two after speaking with other candidates as well. And then we'd make a decision and get the ball rolling. So from start to finish, like honestly, I don't know if this was a case of Jeff specifically, but like the process was probably from start to finish like 3 days, honestly. Like from
Right.
actually just finding the company to getting someone placed, if you want to do it that quickly.
Yeah,
But
I
yes.
knew exactly what type of person you needed. So like I almost like visualized and I knew who you needed. First of all, you needed someone who was a little older, right?
Mm-hmm.
Had more B2B sales experience, right? And also had a certain type of energy to deal with the type of candidates or prospects you're dealing with. And so
Correct.
it had to be a guy like Jeff, right? It had to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore it's like when I was looking for a candidate, I had that in mind. You know what I mean? So the biggest thing is like I understand you told me, okay, well, like he's the type of clientele I'm dealing with. And so like I had an idea already. I was like, okay, they need some type of character as well who can deal with them in
Mm.
a sense. And ideally someone who's a little bit older as well, right? Not like 20 years old, So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
also
yeah.
someone who knows how to sell
Definitely.
B2B. I think that's the biggest thing too. So what would you say is like the biggest difference between like working with Jeffrey, right? Like working with, let's say, the new sales rep that you got on through me versus like your sales team that beforehand. Like, what were some of the biggest differences, between the two?
Here's the big difference that I really care about: cash collected. Yeah,
Mm.
cash collected and revenue has gone up a lot, right? So that's the one thing that, is going to be, that's the business decision. And
Yep.
that's why you do this stuff. So revenue increases, close rate increases, cash collected increases. All of those metrics have significantly increased versus the closer I had on before and the team I had on before. So
Yep.
as a foundational standpoint, all boxes are ticked there, right? Not
Mhm.
only that, but I also feel like there's more longevity with Jeff, and it's not like I don't want to come across bad saying this, but it's like
That's
with
it.
some closers, if they're like 20-year-olds sitting on a beach in Thailand and they're a remote high ticket closer, it's like for some markets it works super good because it's relatable. But for some, like B2B, the space I'm in, it just doesn't really work. And I feel
Yep.
like placing someone like that I did have before doesn't really add longevity to the brand or anything like that, as like a
Yep.
company. Because first impressions count. If you can have someone who's not only a really good closer, but because in the world of B2B, sales cycles are longer, people speak, blah, blah, blah. If you can have a good first impression just as a brand, like I count that as a win as well, right? Which a good
Right.
closer will help you do. So honestly, I could go off on like so many different things that I think it helps with. Communication is better.
Mhm.
But the things that really matter the most really is like the revenue, close rate, and cash collected, which are all the most important metrics, and they've all increased. So
That's good. And then also, so like, could you give us the difference between like in terms of like even close rate, like cash collected? If you're open to be transparent, if not, like there's no worries
yeah,
about
of course.
I'm a little bit curious,
No,
like
I am.
the actual difference, because like the thing is, you had two set, like you had like Jeffrey's only one guy, right? I'm pretty sure you had a
Yeah,
bigger
yeah, yeah.
system beforehand as well, and
I
outperforming.
did.
He's outperforming, I'm sure, easily
Yeah.
multiple
Yeah,
sales.
I had two closes on before. The close rate before was averaging around like 11%. Some
Mhm.
weeks as low as 5%, as I said.
Yep.
Just never like we weren't closing more than 2 to 3 deals a week ever,
Right.
right? That was baseline. Jeff came in, and I think 2 weeks ago he had just over a week, so 9 days, where he closed 10 deals. He was on fire. Like
One
he
week.
had a period, yeah, in 1 week. He had a period where it was like close to 40% close rate. Average across the board,
Yep.
because we had to ramp him up, spend a lot of time with him, stuff like that, is about
Yep.
20%,
Yep.
maybe between 18 and 20. But as we go on, that number is going to increase, right?
Right.
So already at like a basic level, it's at least probably double close rate. But
Yep.
when Jeff's really in his bag with the right things, I'm feeding him the right inputs as I should. It's like 2 or 3 fold better. Which imagine like you running your business, you don't do anything but change the closer, and you go from 30K a month to 90. Like it's possible, you know, like you
Right.
can literally triple revenue with the right salespeople. So
Yeah.
um yeah, it's big difference, man.
That's good. And then of course, like more cash collected. Like, would you say like there's been like in like a double, triple, like in terms of like cash collected, like in terms of percentage? Um,
Yeah, yeah. So in terms of percentage, once again, it's probably been about double. I don't think it's been triple, but it's been about double. So
that's
it's
still
been it's been
insane.
healthy numbers.
You have one guy and he's doubling the cash collected versus two other sales guys. You know what I mean?
Pretty much, pretty much.
And they had a pack, like, I mean, Jeffrey's busy as well, but like they had like a crazy pack calendar as well. So it's just
Oh
like,
yeah,
like it's quite something. So,
it's a huge difference, bro.
yeah, no, it's good to hear. Appreciate you taking some time here. That's really,
Yeah, of
I
course, man.
like, yeah, I think that's it on my end here. So that's good. Good. I'm just gonna
Sick.
stop the recording here and then should
Yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.